Hello, internet. So I'm trying to actually do this housekeeping nonsense faster. If you like the way that I communicate on this channel and the ideas make any sense to you, please go check out the Patreon. I really enjoy working with folks on there. Thank you so much for the folks that are there. If you want help with your throw, I would love to help you. Go check out the Patreon link down there. If you want to buy disc golf stuff from Upper Park, there's a link to a discount code down there. Saves you 15%, and that 15% goes directly to me. So it's a great way to support the channel and save some money at the same time. Cool, that's housekeeping. This video is someone else coaching on this channel for a change. I feel like communication is one of my strengths in my coaching. And I wanted to give you a different angle. This is one of my clients, a gentleman by the name of Joey, teaching a concept that really resonated with him, teaching it back to me to make sure that he understands everything, and he absolutely does. Joey's a great dude. He's been very helpful as a client for me to work with. He's made a lot of pretty big breakthroughs in his ability to throw far and his understanding of the throw. He usually, not usually, but sometimes he swears like a sailor, in which really endears him to me greatly. I read somewhere that swearing a lot is a sign of very high intelligence. So I'm not going to fact check that all. I'm just going to go with it. But in this video, Joey was very professional because he knew it was potentially going to go up on the YouTube channel. So this is not his full form. He's more fun when he's not trying to be professional. But anyways, I really appreciated his, just hearing his language, because language is such an important tool in coaching, and that's why I wanted to get you this video so you can just hear someone else talk through it. So without further ado, I will let him jump into it. It's the three rails stuff, if you haven't gathered that already. Let's see what Joey has to say, and then I'll listen along and take some notes and come back with anything that I feel like deserves additional clarification. All right, Joey.
Hey Owen, just making this video to kind of explain back to you what I think you've been teaching me, to make sure I've kind of got the concepts right. So to summarize the three rails theory that you've been teaching, if I am in a position here to throw, as if I'm about to throw, and I've got my front foot offset like this, I'm going to picture that my feet are on three different rails. All three of those rails are heading directly towards the front of the tee pad. One is on this right foot, one is straight down my hips, and one is on this back foot. So theoretically, I'm coming in to throw, and I'm moving like this. All three, front, hips, and back leg, are not necessarily in line, but they're all moving in the same direction, which is directly towards the target. What I'm doing currently is I'm in this position. I've got the right idea here. I put myself in a powerful looking position, but rather than moving directly towards the tee pad, when I do this offset step, I change direction with my weight shift, and my weight shift is now no longer going toward the tee pad, it's going towards this front foot, like this. And the problem is that I get off those three rails, and rather than those three rails moving forward and all of these pieces moving towards the target, I change direction, my weight moves towards the front left corner of the tee pad, and therefore my back leg gets off its rail and starts moving toward the front leg. And what this does is it creates a situation where I don't have the range of motion in my hips. And essentially what it means is that I am now no longer offsetting, I'm basically following that right leg with my left leg. If you can imagine, I'm looking at you here. If I start going in like this and I plant like this, my back leg has got nowhere to go if my back leg is following the weight of my right leg. And I'm in this position where I can turn my hips manually, but I'm not getting a natural sort of snapping sort of, athletic engagement of the hips. It's all sort of forced, and I'm using my flexibility and my muscles to drive it manually. And I can kind of compensate by that. And I know what I've been doing is I get up here and I get in this unathletic position and I can get my back to the target and I can rip it over my shoulder into this sort of power pocket, but it's definitely compensating. It's definitely mostly arm at this point. Whereas if I am coming in on this 3 rails and I offset my foot, but I continue my weight going this way, what I get is as my front foot hits this offset, if my weight is still heading forwards like this, the offset will force this right hip back and it will engage these hips. And once that right hip goes back, then that will turn my left leg in and everything is still heading towards the target as such. And it's the momentum that does it. So if I come in here and I go like this, if I force my momentum in this, then it's going to just create that sort of like, it's almost like a pole vaulter sticking it in and getting the flexibility from that. It jams in and everything moves through like that, but I have to keep it on 3 rails and heading towards the target. I think that's about right. If that helps, let me know if I'm onto the right thing here.
Okay, so that's Joey. Yes, Joey, you are onto the right thing. You nailed it. Knocked it out of the park, as we would say here in America. So stuff that Joey said that is absolutely apt and 100% correct is he said, so he's on the 3 rails, kind of sort of right. But then where it goes wrong is when he steps to that final plant foot, he's sending his weight that way off of the rail. So the 3rd rail in the center is supposed to be your weight shift, which is supposed to keep going generally that way. There's some nuance to it for each person, that's fine. But a basic model is we're going to keep the center of gravity moving towards the target, as in it's going to go behind the front heel, not right at the front foot. When it does go right at the front foot, first of all, that's the most common, most fundamental error in all disc golf amateur players. Full stop. And that's the foundational error. So it may show up as rounding or a million different other things or swooping, but the problem is the weight shift is going in the wrong direction in a lot of cases. So what Joey said about that is he's an athletic dude. He can throw pretty far. So even when he gets in this screwed up position, he can yank it over his shoulder and kind of make it work. And what he said specifically that I really liked is he can turn the hips manually and make it work. So he can get in this messed up position and then turn his hips on purpose because he knows he's supposed to and make it work. That is 100% the problem. We should not be turning our hips manually. How we should be turning our hips is with the ground and with momentum. So there is momentum in this system moving down the tee pad. And what makes it work is getting on the ground. He also used a pole vaulter analogy. I think that's pretty solid too. It gets tricky to think about, like, okay, what's the pole and what's the person, but as a basic idea, it totally works. That's my pole vault. And then this weight continuing forward is like the pole vaulter bending the pole. Then the analogy breaks down because the pole straightens out and flings a person over a tall thing, and we don't really do that. But the first part of it absolutely works. I'm sticking this into the ground, extending it, and that's going to cause this to fold forward. So there has to be momentum. You can't do this right from a standstill. You end up just driving off your back foot in a standstill. So you need momentum and you need the ground. The force from the ground should be what clears your hip and causes your hips to snap. Clears your hip and causes your hips to snap. If that's not happening because of the ground, then you're not bracing at an elite level yet, which is super uncommon. Another very popular YouTube disc golf coach, who shall remain nameless, has recently said that they don't teach a hip clear. That was really useful for me to hear because it made everything that person coaches make a lot more sense. And I'm bringing this up because you don't have to use this mechanic. If you don't want to get to an elite level, if you don't want to study form for the sake of studying form because it's fun, that's what I do, then you don't have to. You can get lower hanging things that are easier to understand and easier to execute, and that might involve not clearing your front hip. If that's the case, do that. There's an entirely different set of coaching ideals that we would want to do in that case. But my approach is always leading people towards this with the understanding that you can do part of it without doing all of it. And I really feel like that will maximize your power and your distance and your accuracy and your consistency and your ability to not get hurt doing this. That's what I coach towards. So if you understand ideal mechanics, you can opt out of any part of that that doesn't work for your body and pick the best thing for you. So if you only need 280 feet of distance, you don't need this. And you can learn as much of it as you need to get to that 280 comfortable, and then say, okay, well, I'm going to skip this part and this part and this part and not worry about those and focus on the parts that are more accessible to me than that. That is 100% cool. I just want to spell that out because I'm always coaching to this ideal, but that doesn't mean that I think that that's the only way that you should throw. And that doesn't mean that that's the only way I should coach. I should coach to what your goals are, which is what I strive to do. So the other thing that kind of slapped me about what Joey said when he was making the pole vault analogy, I think there's another really good analogy here. Let me get my hockey stick. In hockey, there's a thing called a slap shot, which uses pretty darn much, I think, the same mechanics as we do in a backhand. I've never played hockey. I don't really know anything about how to coach the mechanics, but I'm going to do some research and look up who's good as far as YouTube hockey coaches, which is a whole nother rabbit hole. But I think that mechanic makes a lot of sense because in my one leg position, I have you static here, and the rest of the body is being a counterweight that's folding down to cause power. A hockey slap shot is literally exactly the same thing. I don't know if they try to stop on that foot as they hit. There's probably two different variations, a moving slap shot and a stopping slap shot, maybe. I don't know. So if you're a hockey person, drop me a comment. Let's hop on a call. But I think that's really a useful analogy for the 4 people that have played hockey that also played disc golf. It's just to get you thinking about how those mechanics work. Anyways, so I'll stop there. Thank you, Joey, for your contribution. Absolutely solid, as usual. Yeah, so if you want to pick Joey's brain about stuff, sign up on the Patreon, hop on the Discord. He's on there. He starts a lot of good conversations about mechanics. So yeah, thank you again, Joey, and thank you to the patrons. And we'll see you next time, Internet. Later.